All right, hello and welcome back to the Carl Jackson Show. Guys, Trump has had some more picks that I want to get into. I want to talk about here shortly. But before I do that, Bethany Mandel, she's the co-author of Stolen Youth. She's also a homeschooling mother. She had a post in a column in the New York Post that I want to speak about briefly. How liberal parents are basically transferring their Trump derangement syndrome onto their kids. Now, that's not how she framed it. That's how I'm framing it. And I want to go through this column in just a second here, but I do want to make you aware that obviously, well, if you're watching this program, you know that Trump has now picked Representative Matt Gaetz as his attorney general. Tulsi Gabbard has been picked for head of the DNI, Director of National Intelligence. And so some great picks. Also, Robert, did I just mention Robert F. Kennedy Jr. over HHS? I think that's an excellent pick. I think that Trump is showing a seriousness about gutting the federal government, gutting these bureaucracies, and make sure that the people are in charge once again. And I love these picks, but I want to talk about this. There was a column written by Bethany Mandel, and the column is titled here. Excuse me for just a sec. It's titled "Post-Election: The Liberal Moms Are Not Okay, and It's Hurting Their Kids." Guys, I think that we have an excellent opportunity to turn this country around. Frankly, to return this nation back to Judeo-Christian principles, and to turn this nation back to constitutional principles. I just had a conversation earlier this week with a gentleman that's I would say an acquaintance of mine, and this gentleman voted for Kamala Harris, and he voted for Kamala Harris. He's married. He has a young daughter, and he's a Christian. And he told me that the reason that he voted for Kamala Harris, and in part anyway, was because, for one, obviously he didn't like Trump, but beyond that, he was concerned that if something were to ever happen to his daughter sexually, he wanted her to be able to have the choice. Now, I got to share with you that this was a black gentleman. And I don't like playing identity politics. I don't like playing the race games. But for the sake of this conversation, I think it's really important. And so this gentleman said that he voted for Kamala Harris because when it came to the issue of choice, if something were to happen to her daughter, his daughter, he wanted her to be able to have a choice to have an abortion, basically. Now, I got to tell you, this stunned me because this is a guy that professes Jesus Christ. This is a guy that's a Christian as well. So what he's doing is projecting his worldview, onto his kid, and I get it, but in a way that's terrifying, in a way that's scaring his kid. It's really a weird phenomenon, and I think this is important. I think this election really gives us an opportunity not to stop and just accept a win politically, but start advancing our worldview when it comes to constitutional principles. And for those of us that are believers, to share our views when it comes to the issue of life, when it comes to issues of morality. I was able to ask this gentleman if he knew who Margaret Sanger was because he's black, the founder of Planned Parenthood, although it wasn't called Planned Parenthood when she founded it. But I instructed him to go to a particular website, look her up and all this kind of stuff. He was concerned. I live in Florida. He was concerned about Florida's Amendment 4. And thank God it failed, because if it had passed, then women would have been able to have abortions all the way up to 9 months of pregnancy. And in some cases, even after birth. And so he was unaware of this. He was unaware of the particulars of that amendment, which is astonishing to me. He said he needed to read more on it, but he was deceived like many other. And this is honestly, outside of politics, this is really a good guy. I've spoken to him so many times about so many different issues, even some political issues that we agree with, and just life in general. But this guy had been duped. And I saw this, I recognized immediately, hey, we had just won the election. So, I could rest on my laurels and I could feel good about it, or I could share my faith with this guy, knowing that he was a Christian. And I could see when I said, wait a minute, man, I don't think like that. I'm a Christian. When I put my faith before the color of my skin, before that amendment, if you will, even, I could see that he was taken aback. We have to continue fighting for this country even after the election, because when we fight for this country, we're actually fighting for people. When we share our faith, we're actually fighting for people. We're fighting for souls. And so it really hit me that the fight doesn't stop just because we won an election, which brings me to this column by Bethany Mandel. And again, she writes about how liberal moms are not okay. And I want to read some of this column, to you. It's entitled, again, Post-Election, Liberal Moms Are Not Okay, and It's Hurting Their Kids. She says the moms are not okay. To be more specific, the liberal moms are not okay. She gave a sampling of some social media posts that she's seen after the re-election or of now President-elect Donald Trump. Here's one, and I'm quoting, "My 6-year-old son kept hugging me this morning and saying, 'Don't worry, Mama, I won't let him hurt you.'" My 6-year-old son. Another one. "I told my 3-year-old to never have kids. I've been sobbing since I woke up." Another one. "I scared my poor 1-year-old son because I was crying so hard." Here's another one. "My 10-year-old broke down crying this morning saying, 'Mommy, now we're going to die. I'm worried.' I told her to unite with all the kids that wanted Harris to win." This is a mother instructing her child. These are real people Bethany Mandel writes about, and unfortunately she writes, real parents who have decided to inflict severe emotional distress upon their children as some kind of political virtue signal. And that's exactly what's happening. A lot of these parents out there are either mentally ill or have not grown up themselves, in my opinion, when it comes to a lot of these liberal people. I don't know if you heard about this, and we should have had the video for you, but Don Lemon and Joy Reid decided that they needed to leave X this week. They decided that they were going to leave the platform, the social media platform, and they were just going to move on, and they had to announce that to the world. They didn't need to announce it. They could have just bounced. But these people are triggered. They're triggered by dissent. They're triggered by people that have a differing opinion. It's really sad to me because these people are journalists. And yet we have parents that are doing the same thing with their kids. They're triggered when other people believe something that's different, and then they project their Trump derangement syndrome or transfer their Trump derangement syndrome off to their kids. Why is this happening? This is happening because we have a culture that's void of God. We have a culture that's void of Judeo-Christian values. We have a culture that's void of constitutional principles. That's why I believe this win for President Trump is so important. That's why I believe some of these nominations for President Trump are so important. And we'll get into some of those in just a second. One of the things that Bethany Mandel wrote is these parents are weaponizing the grief they themselves sold into their own children, claiming that someone else caused this kind of fear for their kids. But it's them. You know, kids aren't racist, aren't born racist. It's their parents teaching them this stuff. Kids are not born with an anxiety or Trump derangement syndrome. It's their parents that are inflicting them with this disease, if you will. And I suspect that religion, or the lack thereof, has a major part to play. You're either going to choose, it seems to me, if you're on the right or the left, you're going to choose big government, or you're going to choose a bigger God. And a lot of these people have relied on big government instead of God. But I have to say, the reason why they've done that is because, sadly, many of us haven't gone out and shared how important it is to be an American, how important it is to make sure that we celebrate the traditions that we hold in the United States of America, how important it is to uphold our Judeo-Christian values. And it really hit me that day when I was talking to that gentleman. It's amazing that these people are upset that Trump won, so much so that they're passing on their fears to their children. Yet it's amazing to me that they were unwilling to protect their children. And Bethany Mandel writes about this from the teachers' unions and all of the Democratic supporters that supported these children being out of school for a year and a half in blue cities during the COVID lockdowns, where a lot of these children developed anxiety and depression and so on and et cetera. So they were unwilling to protect their children from what was really hurting them long term. And now they're hurting their children by literally handing off their emotional distress onto their children. We're really living in a sad state of affairs. I've seen the post online, and I'm sure you have too, about family members, particularly on the left, that have decided they are going to abandon or forego going to Thanksgiving with their family members. One guy even went viral on X, calling his aunt a traitor. One woman that I saw a video of, she said she would never go see her parents again, and threatened that her parents would never see their grandchildren again because they voted for Donald Trump. Guys, we live in a sick, sick world. These lefties have gone really sick. But you know what? It's up to us to continue to preach Judeo-Christian values, and it's up to us to continue to fight for constitutionalism. That's the only way we're going to win the country back, and quite frankly, in the future, some friends back. We'll be back. The story of My Pillow is a testament to faith and transformation. Mike Lindell, once battling addiction, found a new path when he embraced faith and began following Jesus. In gratitude, Mike is excited to share an exclusive offer with our listeners. Right now, the standard My Pillow is available for just $14.88, a savings that's too good to pass up. There's a limit of 10 per customer, so don't wait to take advantage of this amazing new deal. Using the promo code Carl, C-A-R-L, Mike believes God gave him the idea for My Pillow in a dream, and it's designed with your comfort in mind. The pillow holds its shape and adapts perfectly to your unique sleep position, helping keep your neck aligned for the best night's sleep. And there's more. Take home a 4-piece kitchen set for only $25. Enjoy their new mattress topper starting at just $99.99, or pick up the luxurious My Pillow bed sheets starting at $49.98. Visit mypillow.com or give them a call at 800-858-0263. Use that promo code Carl, C-A-R-L, to unlock huge discounts. Don't miss out. Order today. Christmas is right around the corner. Get your orders in earlier. And if you're traveling, man, he's got some great small pillows that'll work great for your neck while you're traveling too. mypillow.com, promo code Carl. All right, welcome back to the Carl Jackson Show. This has been an insane week. President Trump with his cabinet picks. I mean, he has been fast and furious, if you will, when it comes to his cabinet picks. A lot of them are making liberals' heads explode. There are some head scratchers, and we'll get into that as well. But all in all, I think President Trump has done a fabulous job of picking his cabinet. But here's a video that I want to show you. This is video clip number 4, Gabe, of Trump and Biden meeting earlier this week. And this made liberals go crazy. So let's share. Trump met with President Biden at the White House on Wednesday. Here's how it went.
Well, Mr. President-elect and former President, thank you. Donald, congratulations. Thank you. And looking forward to having like we said, smooth transition. Do everything we can to make sure you're accommodated, what you need. And we're going to get a chance to talk about some of that today. So
good.
Welcome
Thank
back.
You, and, thank you very much. And politics is tough, and it's in many cases not a very nice world, but it is a nice world today, and I appreciate it very much. And a transition that's so smooth, it'll be as smooth as it can get, and I very much appreciate that.
You're welcome.
All right, so there's a lot to be said about that video. But first off, I got to give former President Trump and now President-elect Trump credit for sitting with President Biden. Why? And now I know a lot of people, a lot of liberals are saying, well, he didn't do it in 2020, but he's doing it. He's doing it now. I understand why he didn't do it in 2020. Listen, the guy is human, and he felt like the election was rigged, and this is a free country. But this meeting was very, very interesting to me because President Trump was gracious. Now, mind you, that Joe Biden sicked his federal government on Donald Trump. He did everything he could to weaponize the DOJ against now President-elect Donald Trump. And yet Donald Trump was gracious enough to show up and sit there, and he wanted a smooth transition as well. Now, for all of you liberals that are sitting and you're watching this program and you're like, how could Biden sit with a Nazi? Well, here's the truth. He was campaigning. Kamala Harris was campaigning. They don't believe any of this stuff. That's what they sell you in order to try to make you emotional so that you forget about policy positions. But fortunately, or unfortunately, many Americans are feeling the pain of the Biden-Harris administration, and they decided to overwhelmingly reelect former President Donald Trump. So all of you, you've been lied to. If you're on the left, they don't believe it. All right. Kamala Harris doesn't believe that Trump is Hitler. Biden never believed that Trump is Hitler. And look at how happy Biden looked. Everybody has remarked on how happy he looked. I think he's happy and relieved that he's still the only person that he could say in his mind beat former President Trump, now President-elect Trump. I think it's a dig, quite frankly, to Kamala Harris. And there were some digs to Trump, too. Smooth transition. They're trying to make sure that Joe Biden goes out looking like he's the same one, like he's the cordial one, like he was the one that brought about peace and all this kind of nonsense. And I get it. He can have his day, but he lost. His own party staged a coup on him. But nonetheless, we're going to have a peaceful transition. At least we hope, because a lot of people on the left, remember, there is blue anon. There are some people on the left that are refusing to believe that Trump won, despite the fact that the victory was so overwhelming, both in the popular vote and the electoral college count. But anyway, having said that, I want to move on to some of President Trump's picks, because he's got some new picks. We spoke about some of the other picks, but I do want to talk about some of the latest. Obviously, you guys have heard of Doge. That's with Elon Musk, the Department of Government Efficiency, and Vivek Ramaswamy. And both of these gentlemen will be overseeing some of these bureaucracies and seeing what fat can be cut and making suggestions, I believe, directly to the president. I believe that's a good thing. We'll see where that winds up. None of us know as of yet, but we hope and pray that will be effective. But I want to play for you a couple of clips. This is Pete Hegseth, now the Secretary of Defense, at least nominee. And I want to play a video of him. This video may have gotten him in some trouble. I think it's a fabulous pick. Let's go ahead and roll video clip number 1, please, Gabe.
There's a chance to course correct it, but it would take a new Trump administration going after it really hard.
How would they correct it?
Well, first of all, you got to fire. You got to fire the chairman of the Joint Chiefs, and you got to fire this. I mean, obviously, you're going to bring in a new Secretary of Defense, but any general that was involved, general, admiral, whatever that was involved in any of the DEI woke shit, it's got to go. Either you're in for war fighting, and that's it, and that's the only litmus test we care about. You got to get DEI and CRT out of military academies, so you're not training young officers to be baptized in this type of thinking. And then, whatever the standards, whatever the combat standards were, say, in, I don't know, 1995, let's just make those the standards. And as far as recruiting, to hire the guy that, did Top Gun Maverick and create some real ads that motivate people to want to serve. And there's lots of other ways in which you could identify who gets promoted and what, but there's an ethos change. I mean, there's a reason people don't want to serve, because they don't trust that their senior leaders are going to have their best interest in mind in combat. I know there were mistakes made on our tours all over the place. Mm-hmm. But I, at least for the most part, had a sense that my senior leaders were committed to the completion of the mission for the right reasons. And maybe there were strategic differences and all that other stuff, and it wasn't always perfect, but that trust is broken, and you have to reestablish that trust by putting in no-nonsense warfighters in those positions who aren't going to cater to the socially correct garbage.
Okay, and now I want to go right to a second video. This is CNN panelists having a discussion about the nominated Secretary of Defense, Pete Hegseth. Video clip number 2, please, Gabe.
Does anyone have confidence in the current leadership of the Pentagon and the way the defense situation has been operating for the last several years? I mean, from the Afghanistan pullout, which was an extreme debacle for which no one was held accountable. We've had spy balloons flying over the United States. We built a $300 million pier as a public relations stunt, which wound up killing an American service member. I'd say I've had just about enough of the so-called insiders running the Defense Department. I think we ought to give Pete Hegseth a chance, because he's got two insiders. All the criticism of him is that he's not the expected Washington pick. And I'm just saying to you that the American people just voted against the expected Washington pick. So he's got 20 years in service, Afghanistan, Iraq, 2 Bronze Stars, Princeton, Harvard. Yeah, he's on TV, but so are the rest of us.
By the way, that listen you just gave,
I think he ought to be given a chance.
That listen you just gave is really interesting because you highlighted a bunch of things that the civilian leadership of the country decided on. In the military, their job was just to execute. They execute.
How did it go?
I'm just saying. I'm just saying.
How did it go?
In terms of the decision making, you're assigning decision making responsibility to the military over things that civilians were responsible for.
So you make a good point. The civilian leadership made decisions, and then the people they put in charge of the Pentagon carried it out, and it was all pretty much a disaster. So now we have a new president who I think got elected in part because of some of those disasters, and he's going to put in some of the non-insiders in charge of not just this agency but a bunch of them. Now look.
Okay, we can cut it there.
They've got to perform.
We can cut it there for the sake of time. Listen, here's a danger, or at least for the left. They know that Pete Hegseth will make an excellent Secretary of Defense. You'll see some of the posts and some of the memes on X talking about, how could we elect or how could we have this guy, Pete Hegseth, a Fox News host, weekend host, instead of a Lloyd Austin. Well, Lloyd Austin gave us Afghanistan. Lloyd Austin gave us the Chinese balloons travailing across the United States of America. Lloyd Austin, who obviously Putin isn't afraid of, perhaps because he was on the board of Raytheon. So who knows if he's going to cash in after he leaves office? I don't know. I mean, that's just my opinion. That's pure speculation on my part. But listen, I think Pete Hegseth will be great. I think we need to get rid of the wokeness. I think we need to make America's military a ultimate fighting machine. And then we don't have time to run the video, but we have RFK Jr. that Trump has just nominated to be put ahead of HHS. This is a guy that wants to get chronic illness out of our society. Give the guy a chance. He's going to be overseeing the department. He's fought for this stuff for over 30 years, I believe. And so, listen, I don't think we can do better or do worse than what we're doing right now. So I'm eager to see what he does. Obviously, there's some controversial picks, and they wouldn't have been my first picks, frankly, with Tulsi Gabbard and Matt Gaetz. And at first, I was a little uncomfortable about them, if I'm being honest. But the more I sat and thought about this, and I know there's more controversy with Matt Gaetz, but I do believe that personnel is policy, and Trump has made his choices. So we'll have to see where they go. But if you have a couple of people that have perhaps been bullied by some of these bureaucratic agencies, what better people than those that have been bullied by these agencies to clean them out? So that's my take on both Tulsi Gabbard and on Matt Gaetz. I'm not sure if Matt Gaetz can get confirmed. It may be a recessed appointment if he's Attorney General. If it is a recessed appointment, then I suspect he'll go in and he'll clean out the DOJ. And we won't have to worry about a weaponized DOJ again, at least not in our lifetimes. Guys, I appreciate you tuning in. We'll be back with more after the break. Stay tuned. This is The Carl Jackson Show.